Hey, welcome back everyone to Shrimp at the House Recall, Part 7, and this is the 19th page I'm working on, but I think this is going to end up being page 24 when all is said and done. Let me get this in, open layers. The challenge with this page is I kind of want to do all of this in one page instead of dragging it out to two. So I'm trying to, like, as I'm doing this, running through my head, what information I want to keep, what I want to sort of toss out, and what I can kind of throw out there but condense or kind of gloss it over a little bit. Because I'm not sure if it made it in any of the surviving videos that got put up, but for me, the whole purpose of this story was to swap out the prop for the size changer. I know that's silly, but it is true. I created, I kind of created this whole story just as an excuse to explain is just as an excuse to put in a better looking prop. Or maybe like a more functional one even. I mean, I don't, it's a little better. It's not quite as, I don't think it's quite as aesthetic as I would have dreamed, but pretty much all I wanted was a device that's a little more complex than just a box with a button on it. So it's pretty much in this what's going to end up being the last page is, where she unveils the new device to David, lets us know the real, reveals to like both him and us, the reader, the real reason for the recall that he's been freaking out on the whole time. And it kind of, and to throw him into sort of a little bit of confusion, like what's going on here. Ah, surprise. Plus, I want to do, fit in a little joke that harkens back to the first story. So it's the question is, how much of this can I cram in here without this becoming too full? So I think too, and I think too, it's not just kind of bringing in a better prop into the story, but I think I kind of also want to. I mean, I don't have to, but it's like since I'm doing it, I kind of want to change the functionality of the device a little bit. So I kind of want her here to touch on that to sort of set it up for the future. And I'm not really sure how much she's gonna be able, she's gonna be able to get out here on one page. It could just be one of those things you sort of let the reader know that there's going to be changes, and then sort of let the changes unfold as you need them later on. Let's see. Look at David still posing here from where he was having his father-son moment with Alex in the previous page. We've got to undo this. Let's go. Blah 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 blah. I think. So, and it's like I said, it's if I don't explain the new changes to the device, I can sort of make them up. I don't want to say make them up, but I don't lock myself into something later on that ends up not working. So, like, one of the things I'm thinking of is the 2-day wait period. Yeah, I think that's one of the things I'm thinking of. The 2-day wait period goes away. I'm thinking. Also toying with. No, I guess I'm not really toying with the idea of being able to reverse a change mid-course. But one of the things I would like to do is, and that I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with the device, is I'd like to be able to save multiple profiles. So it's currently the canon is that if you use the device multiple times before restoring the previous subject, it only remembers the transformation of the last subject, whether it's a person or an object. So that anyone or anything else has to wait the mandatory 2 days. Remote for the television? I didn't know there was anything wrong with the old one. As you remember, like the same joke in the beginning of the very first story. um, and it's not really it won't really change, or I think it won't eliminate any possible opportunities in the future. So the idea is, so it's like if they have access to the size changer, um, somebody's not stuck the mandatory 2 days. The idea is that the device will save the profiles of everyone and everything changed, so that, like, if one of the kids goes crazy and just like starts shrinking everybody one by one, like somebody can grab the size changer and fix it all if they have to. But it's like it doesn't close the same door that somebody ends up being stuck until the trick change wears off naturally, because there's always the possibility that there's always the idea that, like, whoever's trying to use the size changer just can't find the profile stored in the memory, Or like if it's one of the kids who steals a device, they don't, maybe like early on, they either don't know how to retrieve a profile or they don't know that they can. So just because the device can do something doesn't mean, it becomes law going forward. And I'm not really sure on the screen too. I put the little screen on it because it would be nice for whoever's using it to be able to see to see the changes they're making instead of having to guess. But that's going to mean I'll have to create every time I want to use it. I'll have to create a texture to put on it. And so the idea is, so it's like kind of stepping back. I've got 6 panels to do this if I really want to keep this on one page. So we've already used 2 here for the joke. So I'm thinking the next one. Actually, yeah, maybe that's what I do. That's what I can do. I'll do one of those wide panels for her where she can just explain everything on like this half of the page, sort of like in the previous page, where it's like wall of text. And then you have David's confusion down here, with the last panel being sort of Liz telling him to forget it in one way, shape, or form. Yeah, that way I can condense a lot of the stuff that would be nice for her to say without sacrificing anything crucial, I should say. So let's see. Let's zoom in so I can rotate this. I kind of looking down at it. Let's see. 23. So, okay, so we're going with the wall of text here. Control C on that one. Whoops. No, silly. You know that recall you were worried about? Turns out it was over the battery. Let's see. How do I want to say this? Turns out it was over the battery. So, it turns out it was also the company. Create a new one. Easier to change. What a crappy excuse. All that over a battery, right? What? Okay, now I need a little more room, so let's go wider. Okay, I guess that's. Make this Control C, edit, paste as. And instead of copying 5 or 6 different, we're just gonna Control C, paste as a new layer. So this is chugging along. The idea is like, in case you haven't been watching, I've been doing this a little out of order, or a little out of order. I've been sort of just creating the pages that I definitely have to have in this part, so that I know how many pages I have to devote to stuff I'd like to do. And it looks like if I can get this to, if I can keep this to one page like I want, I'll have five. I'll have a whole 5 pages between for transitions and kind of maybe one other scene I would have liked to have done in this part before getting to the explanation. Let's see. You know that recall you were worried about? Turns out it was almost impossible to remove from the old device. The company created a new one to make the battery easier to change. And while they were at it, they made a few other changes to the device. Since the kids are occupied, oh, come on. Are occupied, I thought we could sneak off to the bedroom and I made a few kids explore. actually, I say that this was always the long term. Well, I say the long term plan, but this was the plan going back to Showtime. That's what I mean. It was sort of like the idea is it is like he would get fed up with it and throw it out. Allison would rescue it from the trash and have her fun with it. David would get comfortable thinking the device was no longer in the house. And then all of a sudden she brings a new one in. Okay, so let's go file. Let's move this over a little bit. Okay. Merge down. Now, as far as transition, as far as these 5 pages. Oops, actually, you know what? I was just going to do a close up on his head, but I'm just going to move him forward in case you notice on the page from the background. The idea is I want them moving kind of closer together. Used. You know what? And I'll zoom out a little bit because there's going to be a little bit of text, and I think I'm going to put it in the middle. Okay. You did it to me, didn't you? But you couldn't have because I threw it away last year. Unless. That's what the reason. Then why did I suddenly shrink? You did it to me, didn't you? But you couldn't have because I threw it away last year. Unless. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. Okay. And I think this gets everything I wanted to say rather succinctly compared to what was running in my head before I started working on this. uh, okay, those are all lined up, so let's go ahead and merge. So, and while the next story in this series is coming into focus, even though I don't, it'll probably be a long way off before I actually work on it with some of the projects I've got in mind. One of the things I am trying to decide on is whether or not to have Alex in it. Because I mean, I can always excuse, I can always come up with an excuse either way. But it's the idea would be that they go on vacation, and I'm thinking like a camping trip over the summer. So if Alex starts his job with the fire department, he'll probably be spending the summer at firefighter school or whatever it is that they said, whatever training they send him off to do, which would mean he would be unavailable to go on vacation with them. And it's not really a big deal because I don't really, it's I don't really expect him to be central in that vacation story. I kind of expect, um, well, I'm not exactly sure quite yet who is central, but it's either going to be David, the kids, or David and the kids. And, and it's not going to kind of affect things one way or the other if Alex is there or not. But if I go the other way and make an excuse to have Alex there, i.e., in story, I can always just say that the training doesn't start until August, let's say. So, so he's kind of in limbo until then, which allows him to go on the camping trip. In which case, like, his appearance would be sort of a bit of comic relief. And, it's something I can do in another story. It doesn't have to be in this one. But the idea would be that, like, the whole time Aiden is just harassing him about his job. Things like, can I ride the fire truck? Can I pull the, can I ring the bell? Can I, that sort of thing. I mean, it's like I said, it's something I can do. So I guess I didn't. It's something I could use in another story. There's nothing about volume 12 that it has to be there. It's just one of the things I'm thinking, which way do I want to go with Alex? Do I want to use him or just give him the story off? Let's see. I was going to make this panel with the two of them together. But I think because of that word bubble in the middle, little tight on space. So I think I'm just going to have close it on her. I need head. And let's see. This is going to be very subtle, but oh well. Closed right. Actually, where did I just put that? There it is. That's a little better. And brow. Let's see. Um, let's twist it just a little. And actually, I think I'm going to have her winking. I'm going to have her looking directly at you, the reader. She's going to line this up. Let me see what I'm using in hidden. Okay. Okay. So now that I've moved it just a little, I've got to realign it. I think it's going to come up. Not too much. Maybe that wasn't too much. That's what the recall is about. Then why did I suddenly shrink? You did it to me, didn't you? But you couldn't have because I threw it away, unless. Oh, David, I'm sure that's one of those mysteries we'll never solve. Actually, I wonder, see, it's clean there. I wonder if I can get it down. Yeah, I kind of like that. So let's go with that. So I think, too, one idea that I've got in my head that I'm leaning towards using in the next one, in sort of the vacation story, but it's almost one I'd rather wait and do when they're home, but I don't know if it'll be quite possible. If it'll quite work that way. And it kind of fits naturally with the vacation story, but I think one of the ideas that I had is for somewhere along in this series is that like Aiden captures a bug and kind of treats it like a pet. And Jackson, every now and then, wishing his desire for a dog, grabs the size changer and makes the insect kind of dog sized. So that you have this like oversized insect running around. I think that one would actually work in sort of this vacation story if they go, if they go into the woods camping. Sure, they won't have any. Aiden won't have any problem finding a an insect he likes as a pet. Plus, two, if it gets away and runs around, there's lots of space for it. Whereas in the house, if it gets away and there's not a lot of places it can go to sort of really surprise everyone and then disappear for the next time it pops out. But I know like that would end up being like a sub story, like a B story, or at least like I don't know. It won't be like I don't know if it won't be the main story, but that'll be one of those situations where it'll help having the size changer being able to deal with multiple profiles. So like at the end of the story, they can restore whoever got shrunk. They can restore the insect. They can put everything back at the end of the story. Open as layers. Oh, you know what? I'm sitting here thinking I made a mistake with that last text, making it compact like that. But I've actually got room to move this one up. So let me get this one set up. I'll show you what I mean. None. So what I'm going to do is just flip this one, and it's going to come down a little bit. Should I put it up there? Because I want to bring this one over here. Yeah, this is what I want visually. Just inch this over slightly. Okay. Save that. File, image, flatten, export. And we're still numbering these in the order I'm working on. And here's 19, even though this will end up being 24. Well, since you handled that pretty well, it's time I give you a surprise. A new remote for the television? I didn't know there was anything wrong with the old one. Oh, silly, it's a new size changer. You know that recall you were worried about? Turns out it was over the battery. It was almost impossible to remove from the old device, so the company created a new one to make the the battery easier to change. And while they were at it, they made a few other changes to the device. Since the kids are occupied, I thought we could sneak off to the bedroom and explore what this thing can do. If that's what the recall was about, then why did I suddenly shrink? You did it to me, didn't you? But you couldn't have, because I threw it away last year, unless... No, David, I'm sure that's one of those mysteries we'll never solve. So we gotta Control Z, undo this, and let's fix battery. battery. Battery, there we go. Close. So we will save, flatten, and export to 19. And that was the 19th page done in this part, although it'll end up being like 24. But whatever you want to think of it as, this page is done, and I will see you next time.